So in this video, I'm going to talk about something that bothers me that has changed. So you would think that the law is the law and nobody's above the law, right? That if a homeless guy was murdered, brutally tortured by a billionaire in a city with 10 witnesses who saw it, that billionaire would be arrested and put into jail because he's a danger to society, right? That's what you would like to believe. You like to believe that you're proven. You have to be proven guilty. You're innocent until proven guilty, right? But none of those things are the case anymore. You would like to think your minimum wage will pay for the cheapest apartment in a town, right? I mean, it's minimum wage. It's supposed to get you by if you're living in a studio or a one bedroom. It should cover going to work and paying your rent, right? You're working 40 hours at minimum wage. You're not asking for a house. You're not asking for a two bedroom. You're asking for a one bedroom with holes in the wall, water coming in, mold to get you sick, mushrooms in the floor, no lights in the hallway, sewage coming out of the pipes. And you're working 40 hours and your landlord has decided that he should have more than minimum wage for that one bedroom. He should have double minimum wage for the cheapest apartment in town. So every apartment you find is either right at the cusp of minimum wage, way, way above minimum wage working 40 hours, or there's a catch to it that you don't get in the brochure until you get there. I'll give you an example of these catches. You might see advertisements for trailers, right? $350 a month, $400 a month. Sounds good. Fool's logic would tell you you can afford that, right? Fool's logic tells you you should sell your house and move into this trailer right away. Okay, so you take your fool's logic, you see the ad, 350, he tells you the place is available, and you sell your property, you move out of your apartment and you move in. Well, then, once when you move in and you started talking to them, they tell you there's another cost. Yeah, you can rent the trailer, but if you want to be on the property where the trailer is, it's another 600. You go, well, it was only 350 you said for the trailer in rent, right? Well, I only want to give you the 350 in rent. Oh, no, no, no. You got to give us 1,000 a month, 2,000 a month for this trailer. You're forgetting about the property cost. Yes, if you want, you got to either pay $2,000, move this to a different lot and pay them a lot fee, or you can pay us a lot fee, but we need this thing out. You rented it, you signed the paperwork, you paid the 350 a month for the trailer. Now you can either pay the lot fee of 600 a month, or you can move the trailer within 30 days, or we're impounding the trailer, we're taking your money and throwing you out too. Oh, but I don't have $600 a month. Well, say goodbye to your deposit, say goodbye to your 350, and we'll just move somebody else in. So now you're shit out of luck because you believed a shitty ad online. Don't believe those shitty ads online. Trust me, I've checked them out. There's always, always a catch. Even the apartment I live in was a catch. I thought, but there was a catch to this apartment. So I got a two bedroom, and my apartment rents out at 1,400. I pay 1,000, and that's just because he raised it by 400 during COVID. He jacked up the price for any new renters coming in. But I paid full price when we moved in. It was jacked up already. Minimum wage was about 750. I was only getting paid $8 an hour, and on top of that, my rent was about $1,000 a month. So you add that together. Actually, it was 950, but still, it started out at like 850. Then it went to 900. Then it went to 950. It keeps on going up and up. Anyway, so let's say $8 an hour. Well, I thought I was getting a catch. All these other two bedrooms are over $3,000, $2,000, 2,400, 2,000. This place is only $1,000. Well, here's the catches. The electric bill is 600 to 800 a month. You have to get sick. There's sewage in the pipes coming out of the pipes. There are holes and waterfalls coming in, so there's water in the walls. It's covered in so much mold you get sick. There's mushrooms coming under the floors. The old tenant never redid this. The maintenance never redid the place, so there's crayon on the walls. There's mold under the sinks from moldy rags from the old tenant. There's holes in doors from the old tenant. There's lots of problems, as well as multiple health hazards, as well as there's an illegally dumped septic tank in the back, and the septic tank that is under us leaks. As well as there's so many other problems. There's bed bugs that we keep on having to get sprayed, and then the landlord takes our money and the bugs are still there. We were able to get the living room clear for the last 3 years. 3 years ago, we gave the landlord money to take care of this. He said he took care of it. We threw away every last item we had. I spent like thousands and thousands of dollars with the doctors, getting mattresses, getting all my clothing redone, all that type of stuff. All to find out that the bed bugs were still in the bedroom, spreading everywhere. They were covered. They were all over the bedrooms, both bedrooms. So we basically threw everything out. That mattress got thrown out the window. I had to pay another $300 for another mattress. This one for my roommate because he can't sleep on the floor at the age of 84. We got the landlord coming by saying he's going to punch us and evict us if the old man and me don't do his landscaping for him on a hill. We have to go clean up all our neighbors' trash that drive their cars without getting paid, or the landlord's going to hit an old man and evict an old man because he's mad about cans on a hill. So he's going to our door screaming like a lunatic, right after screaming at the fat guy downstairs, which he was smart enough to find another apartment. But he worked for the military doing welding, so his paycheck actually paid the bills. But this is the problem. They're keeping minimum wage below the minimum wage. And that's because in the last couple of years, the minimum wage has not been going up with inflation. You can check this with the charts. They scammed us. They allowed a higher up checks. If you might hear that some people are getting too much money, and then while other people might be suffering and can't even pay their rent, you'd be like, how could that be if everybody's getting paid too much? Yeah. Well, here's the real facts. In 1975, when you look at the charts and look at the facts, it shows that every time inflation went up, they kept the inflation rate for minimum wage down, suppressing the minimum wage wages, so that became a flat. People kept on losing money every 4 years. You had less power, your rent kept on getting higher and higher as your check got smaller and smaller. Before you knew it, nobody could ever save. Before you knew it, people's rents were above their 50-hour work week. And because of this, you might be thinking, wow, inflation is going up. Where did your money go? Well, they gave an increase, a double. Like, think about this. They took half of what was supposed to go into the low minimum wages. So people working at a gas station or McDonald's or the grocery store or the liquor store or any of these places, every time inflation went up and there was time for an increase, they kept Social Security an increase. They gave all the CEOs, all the people at the top increases, and they gave the people a minimum wage an increase. So you would think that everybody was doing okay. But here's the fact. How much did they increase each wage by? So what they ended up doing is not increasing the people at the bottom every 4 years from 1975 all the way to 2021. Every single time they were supposed to get, let's say, $1, they gave them 50 cents and moved the 50 cents that was supposed to go to the bottom up to the top. Meaning the people at the top have never had so much money for that little work. College degrees have never been worth so much, and there's never been so many people going to college. So there's a lot of people with college debt that can't get a job. You got all these overpaying jobs where they're not actually doing very much. Meanwhile, all the important jobs at the bottom do not pay enough. Like, if you're a gas station attendant, you have to work 60 hours just to make your rent. I'll give you an example. A gas station attendant in Rochester gets paid $10 an hour, and most of them get paid less than that. I've made 11 and 12, and that's after getting increases. My coworkers usually make 8, 9, and 10. At $10 an hour, working 40 hours a week, you're making $1,600. A one-bedroom in the cheapest apartment in this town of Rochester will cost you $1,400. And that's a cheap one-bedroom now. That's a cheapo with mushrooms coming in the floor, water coming in the windows. We're talking about no lights in the hallway. We're talking about cheap. The transportation cost is about $400 a month. If you have a car, maybe less, but if you drive or take a taxi, we'll call it $300 to $400. You got an electric bill that, even running very little, as it can only go as far down with nothing running as $350. These buildings have so many holes in it, and the fact that they run off electric heat means that if you run nothing but just the heater and the regular stuff, the bill's at $300 and $350. If you run a television, or you charge your phones or have any lights on, we're talking $650. We're talking $650 during winter. We're talking $800 during winter. And then during summer, when you're running maybe a fan or the heat during fall, maybe $350, $300. When we first moved in with no appliances, no television, nothing, during spring, when it was a mild temperature, running absolutely nothing, our bill was in the $250 to $300 range, and that's when we just came in the building and all we had was a radio. Nothing else plugged in. No phones, no television, nothing. We didn't even run the heat very much at that point. We just moved in and it wasn't winter yet. So, add that all together and tell me how many hours I would have to work to make just those basics and starve myself, not have any toilet paper, not wipe my ass, not have a phone line, not have any phones, just have a roof over my head, and that's it. Just the roof. No food, we're not even counting all that other stuff. We're talking 60 hours a week, and if I want to eat or wipe my ass, we're talking 80 hours a week. It gets ridiculous the more you go up on a one bedroom. And that's because the transportation cost has got ridiculous. We got taxis charging $15 in town, $30, and this is one way. So if I need to get dropped off at work in Somersworth, I pay $30. The buses don't run. They're changing the hours. More and more services for the bottom are being cut. They're cutting public transportation. They're cutting public education. They're cutting public services like food stamps, cash benefits. They're cutting up Social Security down. Meanwhile, wages are being cut at the bottom, and the rent at the bottom is going up like crazy because they can't sue. We have no power. We can't afford an attorney. So what landlords do you think take advantage? Do you think it's the landlords at the bottom that charge more, or do you think it's the people at the top that charge more? Well, if you had a landlord charging more for somebody like my father has an attorney, he has money, and he can move out, and he's not going to put up with that shit. So no, they try to make a deal, they try to keep people, they're trying to make a good living, honestly, at the top apartments. So if you're a CEO and you're getting an expensive house or something, you'll probably get ripped off a lot less than somebody who's making minimum wage trying to find an apartment. We go without stoves, we go without lights, we get our health affected without anything. Literally, sometimes the landlords just beat on tenants and then we still get affected. Landlords are allowed to beat on tenants. I'll tell you one thing. One of our neighbors, the landlord didn't like. So you know how he got him out? The landlord came by for rent and just started assaulting the tenant. Now, the tenant didn't fight back. He just took the beating, kind of like I did. Except for I had mine on camera because I already heard about this trick that the landlord was pulling. So the landlord just comes in and starts hitting the shit out of you. Now, this was an old man, old lady. I can't remember. Old lady. Or, no. Old man. Yeah, old man. This was an angry old man. Anyway, so the landlord just came in and started beating the shit out of him because this old man was obviously filing paperwork in court, taking pictures, stuff like that. Well, you think that this landlord would get in trouble for assaulting an old man and beating him up or something like that, right? So, they called the police on the landlord. The police showed up. The landlord said that he was the one that was hit, and the victim said, well, that's not true. Look at me. I'm all bleeding. I'm hurt. And this guy doesn't have a scratch on him. You can tell. Well, they said, well, we either have to bring both of you to jail or neither of you. At this point, neither of them, I guess, or both. Now, the following week, they got an eviction notice there to vacate premises, and they got thrown out of their house because they got assaulted by the landlord. They called it a fight. They called, the police were called, so then they evicted him because the police were there, and they said that the tenant was assaulting him. But I caught this on camera. I have a Ring camera, and my landlord's such an idiot drunk who doesn't care about anybody else but himself. I knew that he would forget that there's a Ring camera on my apartment. He would do whatever the fuck he wanted. He wouldn't pay no attention to the apartment. He's not looking at the 2 bedrooms that are quarantined. He has gaping holes next to him. He has mold holes that he has to drive by. So he's not paying attention to his apartments at all. He knows that there's a million problems, and he just wants to keep the money. He doesn't want to maintain his properties, and he has a bunch of goons under him that aren't his landlord, aren't his maintenance, but are. We're supposed to let him into our apartments because the landlord says they're maintenance. But then when other authority figures get involved, the landlord says they're not maintenance. So one minute they're maintenance, the next minute they're goons, the next minute they're maintenance, the next minute they're goons. So anyways, you got the landlord doing this shit. He tried it with me on camera. So I called the police, showed them the footage, and so that's it. You see me getting thrown to the ground. I'm already injured on crutches. My crutches are in the other room. I'm trying to hand a piece of paper while trying to hold myself up with many stomach pains. He grabs me, throws me onto the floor, and then starts kicking me in my already injured kidneys. And a couple weeks prior to this, if you look at my videos, you will notice, or a few weeks prior to this, that my urine turned black and my kidneys started to fail. And months before this, I had a GI issue. So I'm already hurt. I'm already having seizures because of his mold. And we think that my kidneys and GI might be affected by the sewage water I was trying to clean. I was too hurt to lift jugs of water home. My roommate's 84 and can't carry water home. The delivery truck won't put anybody on the list to get water home. We're out of water again, so I tried boiling the water out of the sink. But the doctors think that might be why my GI and kidneys and why my urine turned black. They said sewage water drinking out of the sink could cause an infection in my kidneys or insides. And if I had an infection, that might cause my urine to turn black. That could be the cause of my illness. They're not sure. They're not really running any tests. I just asked them a question and they said that made sense, but they would have to run tests to find out. But they won't run the test. They're not really looking into it. I gotta wait until October for another test. I mean, they're slow as fuck. They're confusing, and I keep on receiving more and more head injuries from the seizures while I wait for these appointments, making it harder and harder, as well as after these head injuries. Sometimes I don't even remember what's going on. I don't remember what I was doing before the head injury sometimes. So we got all this going on. Meanwhile, what do you think? You think that the cheap landlords are overcharging, or do you think the people at the top are overcharging? I would have to say the people at the bottom that are easiest to take advantage. Whoever is easiest to take advantage of will be most likely the people who do get taken advantage of. So if you have a 7-year-old child who just had an overdose trying to talk at a doctor's office, it's super easy to take advantage of him. My mother did it and it was easy for her. When I was having permanent damage to my nervous system and everybody could see it, teachers saw it, doctors saw it, everybody was worried for me. It was very easy for my mother to cover it up because I'm an orphan who is very vulnerable. So my mother put me in ballet and then moved me to El Paso, Texas, dropped all medical care, dropped all conversations with the Department of Health and Human Services, continued to try to cover up her crimes, then moved me to New Mexico, then moved me to Maine. So it was very easy to get away with her crimes. And that is only the wealthy people that do that. See, if I poisoned a child and accidentally gave him a neurological disorder, you better believe I would be in prison. You better believe it. You know why? Because I can't move my family all the way to El Paso. I can't pay for a $26,000 place in New Mexico. Then I can't sell all that and move him to Maine. Plus, I have a good heart. I wouldn't lie about my child. I would definitely come clean. I couldn't take the guilt of doing that to somebody. Especially that my mother knew it, because I mentioned it in the doctor's office, and my mother admitted to it. She said, oh yeah, I gave him some medicine and he had a reaction. It was an allergy attack. The doctor goes, what medicines were they? I don't know. I don't want to talk about it. And every single time I try to get any help, just dodge it. Well, this works for the rich. It works for the people, and it mostly works for people you can take advantage of. The weak, the disabled, the defenseless. They get sucked dry. Like, did you know that homeless people work for free sometimes for like 40 hours a week and they don't even get paid for it? Yep. There's a lot of companies out there that will drive to the shelter offering jobs on the books. They'll put you to work for a whole week welding or doing construction or painting. Then they'll lie to you and say, I never put you on the books, I'm not paying you, get fucking lost. Thanks for the 40 hours of labor, get lost now. You know why that works? Because these are homeless people that are easy to take advantage of, who are willing to work and not on drugs. There's a lot of people in the shelter right now who just want to work a job and move into an apartment. So when somebody comes over saying, I got a job for you on the books, they say, sure. They go to work, they do the work, and then when they find out they were fucked, there's nothing they can do about it but sit at the shelter. Because do you think any lawyers are going to help these homeless men that just worked for $400 and never got paid? Do you think they're going to help the women that work and get raped and then get dropped off? Fuck no. These people, there was a girl I knew who got offered a construction job, came back saying that they just had sex with her against her will, that she never did any construction, and then they refused to pay her. This stuff happens all the time. But the police don't care. I'll tell you another one. I watched a guy get murdered. Yes. A guy got murdered in Tent City. I reported it to the police. Everybody did. They found a dead body on the rocks. That was Rick, Tammy's husband. And you know what ended up happening to the murderer? The police knew who did it. We knew who did it. Everybody knew who did it. The fat Dave. Now, there was like 3 Daves I knew at the time. But the fat, drunk Dave, that Dave is the one who did it. We heard it. Some people saw it. I didn't see it. I heard it. But some people saw it because they had their tent open. The police were all told the truth. And you know what ended up happening to Dave? He dated the dead guy's wife. Yes, he murdered Rick and then dated his wife for a month. His wife was too creeped out by this, so ended up dating somebody else. Meanwhile, the police are like, oh, well, just another murdered person that was drunk. I'm not saying that Rick was a good guy, but nobody deserves to be murdered and have nothing done about it. But this is the problem. The rich can go around taking advantage of the homeless, robbing their tenants, beating on old ladies and old men. I mean, my landlord even came here screaming at my 84-year-old roommate. Said that if he didn't go on the steep hill doing his landscaping for him, that he was going to come and punch and evict him. And he would. The landlord would come here, punch this 84-year-old if he didn't do his landscaping for him. Now, why was the landlord so mad? Some tenant in a car, or I don't know, somebody was throwing trash on this other hill. So he was just trying to pick on somebody to figure out, because he didn't want to pay his landscaper, who was really a goon. This landlord doesn't have a real landscaper. He doesn't have a real maintenance. He just has a bunch of like goons who commit crimes, get drunk, do meth, stuff like that. So when it was time, and he didn't want to pay, the guy that he's hired to do it says, hey, I'm not paying you extra money. Go take care of those cans. No. Yes. No. So he got angry and decided, I'm going to yell at the tenants for this. The tenants are the ones throwing the trash on the landscaping area, so I'm just going to start screaming at all of them. So he started going door to door threatening people. He came to our door, knocked on the door. Dave and me answered. He says he's going to punch Dave, an 84-year-old, and a victim if he doesn't go on a hill and start cleaning and doing the landscaping for him. Now, this is nowhere near our building. This is a steep, like almost 90-degree angle with pine needles on a grassy slope with pine trees over that I couldn't even stand up in. I had to kind of like slide down the pine needles on my hands and knees. So did David, and if he tried to stand up, he would have fell backwards and broke all his bones. All because the landlord threatened him and said, I'm going to punch you and evict you if you don't do my landscaping for me. What the type of fucking shit is going on in this country? We got tenants afraid of their landlords because the landlords are allowed to just come in and assault them? Even on camera? You got literally rich people putting the homeless people to work for free labor? You got businesses poisoning people to save money? You got septic tanks being dumped so the landlord can live in a beach house in a Gunkwit? Why does a guy have multiple houses to live in, still buying properties, yet the properties he owns are falling apart? Why? Because nobody cares if people kill, hurt, and take advantage of the weak. Well, I care, and you better believe I do something about it. Every single time I saw somebody taking advantage of the weak, I stepped in. And you don't want to do that in front of me. Trust me. I've done it before. I don't let that shit happen. If you take a lollipop from a kid, I will shove that lollipop so far into your eye socket that you will no longer be able to see out of it. If I see you poison a child, you're getting hung up by your testicles. If I see you assault the old man, I'm breaking your fucking legs. I don't put up with that shit. And if I don't decide to do it physical and show you why you're getting it, you're going to get it and you won't even know where it came from. You'll be grabbing your doorknob of your car and then 6 months later be shitting into a fucking bag. You'll be grabbing the doorknob of your house and then 6 months later be in the hospital with a breathing disease and a bunch of skin cancer. I can make all these really, really legal things that you don't want to have anywhere near your skin. Like I can make benzocaine, lidocaine crystals, 100% liquid with a sticky glue substance that will instantly absorb into your skin and be so lethal you're guaranteed to get an overdose of benzocaine and lidocaine. Now I would never do these type of things. I would never put something radioactive or put something like that could cause a disease or give you so much Tylenol that your liver fails and make sure that it's in something that you would eat. I would never do anything like that. But if you're going to poison other people, kill other people, take advantage of the weak, and then you have a body count of multiple people suffering and hurting, if you're going to be like Hitler, torturing and doing medical experiments on the Jews, if you're going to be like the CIA, strapping random people to beds and drugging them and shocking them when they didn't even give permission, if I see that type of shit, if I see landlords beating on fucking disabled people only because they complained the right way, in the legal way, if I saw some disabled 80-year-old file a piece of paper in the courts, and then the tenant came in and started assaulting him, and that old man's in the hospital and never threw a punch, and then the landlord says that old man threw the punch, and then they're evicting the old man, oh yeah, that landlord's gonna get sick very quick. If I have to see, now I need proof. I don't fucking play no games. I have to have every last dime of proof. I will never, ever, ever do harm to another human being. If I am doing something like this, it is to keep people safe and prevent harm from human beings. So you need to have overwhelming, like you took pictures and videos and you can replay it over and over. Like you were there and part of it. Like there's just evidence, not somebody's story, not somebody telling you something, not like my mother used to do, not believing in false fantasies like my father. If an old man came up to me and told me that this landlord, who I know is assaulting people, I still wouldn't do it. I would have to be there and see it. So let's say that, okay, I know that the landlord threatened my roommate and said he was going to punch him and evict him if he didn't do the landscaping. Let's say the landlord came back. I was at work. I came back home and David told me that the landlord did this again and actually hit him. And now he's in the hospital and now we're evicted or something like that. Even though I know it could be true, even though I know there's overwhelming evidence, because I don't have it on video and because I wasn't there, I will do nothing but have him follow the law to the letter. Now, it might not work for us. The laws have been designed to allow the wealthy and the well-off to take advantage of the weak. That's why the wealthy and well-off have an easy time getting their kids on Social Security with a lawyer just for anxiety or stuff like that. Meanwhile, people who are missing toes, fingers, legs, they're suffering greatly in front of lots of people. They're waiting 7-10 years. Sometimes they go their whole life and die without Social Security. Yes, some people die waiting for their Social Security who are poor and not well off. And that's because we built a system that allows the wealthy to take advantage of the weak, the defenseless, the benefits, and then we complain about people taking advantage of the benefits. Meanwhile, it's the wealthy doing it. Literally. We got wealthy people taking advantage of the system and then complaining that people are taking advantage of the system and blaming it on the people at the bottom. No, it has to be the poor people doing it. No, the poor people don't get shit. We don't have lawyers. We don't have that shit. We get taken advantage of constantly. A lot of us get put in prison for stuff we didn't even do, and we have to deal with it. We have to do time for a rich person's crime. It happens all the time. Some wealthy guy commits a crime. He does it real careful. The cops can't find him, so they just lock up some black kid and throw him in prison. Fucked up shit like that happens every day in society. We got Danny, age 31, just like me. He has anxiety, that's his disability, and he's been on Social Security. Why? His father hired a lawyer for him. This kid drives. He's able to work. It's just that he's very anxious. He has super bad anxiety. So he gets over $700 a month of Social Security. And he only waited about a year for it. He says, Zach, how could it be 11 years you still don't have your Social Security? You're having seizures, you can barely walk, you're twitching, you have anxiety, you have PTSD, you have ADHD, you have all this stuff wrong with you, and you're still not on Social Security? No, I'm poor, and a rich family used me up. That's it. This is what happens when you're born an orphan, and somebody like your father lets your mother just cripple you over time, and then your mother dies and your father wants to run off without telling anybody what happened. This is what happens. This is how the poor get taken advantage of. And this is why you have to be very careful. Yes, I would believe my roommate that the landlord hit him, but I could not do anything back because I need outstanding proof that I'm going to be helping somebody, that I am making a big difference. Like if I knew that Hitler existed, if I could go back to time and I saw Hitler, yes, I would kill that motherfucker. If I had a bunch of Jews hiding from the government, yes, I would hide them. Absolutely. I would not let anybody get shot or harmed, even though it's against the law. I want to know, but I would need proof that our government is hurting people. So let's say I saw our police officers executing blacks. Let's say that. Let's say there's a new president like Hitler that comes into America, and they start rounding up blacks and shooting them and saying it's for their own good. Oh, we're not shooting them. You're all just imagining it. You know, oh, you guys are just fantasizing. It's not happening. It's just a group fantasy. Meanwhile, your best friend, Toby, just got shot and killed in front of you. And then a bunch of African Americans come to your house and ask if they can hide in your basement floor or something. I would say yes, because I just saw our government execute a bunch of black people I knew who were innocent, even if my government is telling me otherwise, because I know what I saw. But let's say 3 African Americans come to my house saying the government is after them, that they're being executed for nothing, but I've not seen any of this. I'm sorry, I'm not going to hide you. You could be criminals. You guys could be killers. I don't know your situation. I haven't seen it. I haven't got enough knowledge. It hasn't been time tested. This is why it's very specific, very important to ask follow-up questions and know the people you're talking to. Like if somebody like Dan Beaudry came up to me and told me that he got assaulted by the landlord, his landlord, I would take it as golden. I would not question it, because he has never lied to me before. But there's another problem here. Like for instance, in my family, I'm known as a liar. Even though I lied less than all the other kids in my family. My nephew Javier lies way more than I did at his age. I mean, he's not getting beaten, that's why. I used to get rulers to the face, drugs, I was drooling, I was passed out in cars. So I really didn't have time like him to play and lie and do those type of things. But I have watched my nephew, Javier, act like a normal kid who's honest. And yes, he makes up a story here and there. So, I was way, way, way more honest than any other of the children I grew up with. So why? Why, if I believe in extreme honesty? Why, if I'm coming up to my father telling him about bottles of wine? Why when I'm coming up to my father just admitting to everything, meanwhile other relatives hide their mistakes? Why would they think that I'm a liar? Why would they think I'm a thief at age 7 and 8 when I haven't stolen anything? Why would they think that I have attachment disorder? Why would they maybe think that I'm writing my name on everything? Why would they think these things when they're not true? Let me see. Okay. Well, let's think about my mother. My mother was lying about me. Oh, that makes sense. My mother called a 7-year-old and a 5-year-old a liar and a thief. She continued calling me that, and she continued making up examples. Okay. Well, if you really weren't stealing anything, and if you really never lied, or you weren't any more of a liar than any other child, if you were just normal child, then why would have your mother brought up that swimming medal and all this other crap? Oh, well, my mother had a fantasy. So that swimming medal I won was an example of a lie, a theft, and my attachment disorder, and I'm writing names on it. My mother went to the doctor, went to my father, went to the family, went to my sister, went to my brother, went to everybody, and said that her new adopted son, that she just met for the first year or two, is a liar, a thief, has attachment disorder, and is writing his name, old last name on everything, just to get back at her. That he's out to get his mother. That's what my mother is telling everybody. Okay. What evidence does my mother have? Well, she snatched a medal out of her son's hand that had a G on it. That's it. That's it. My mother was shown a swimming medal by her son that had a G on it. That's it. Her son came up to her with a swimming medal in his hand and said, "Mom, look what I won in swim class." And then my mother snatched it out of the kid's hand, looked at the back, saw a G, his old last name, and then went on a rant saying, "This must be the athletic African Americans kid in the other room. This must be the African Americans kid. No, you're lying and stealing. No, you're lying and you're trying to get back at me with this G. We need to get you on medicine right away. Yes, we need to bring you to the psychiatrist and tell them about this. Yes, we need to up your medication. Absolutely." Okay, so my mother did all this based on that one medal, right? And she continued to make me out to be a liar and a thief. She continued these stories. Well, let's go over the evidence. Is Zach a liar? Is he a thief? Because he showed his mother a swimming medal. Well, where did the swimming medal come from first? Did it come from an African American? No. Where did that medal come from? Come on, Mom, where did it come from? Where did the medal really come from? Who do you ask? Who do you find out? Oh, you asked Zach and you asked the African American kid. Well, the African American kid still to this day doesn't know anything about the medal, but he does want to get back at me anyway. So I don't know if he'd be honest, but it doesn't matter because it's not his. I'll tell you who knows about it. St. Anne's. St. Anne's Orphanage is the one who scheduled the pool for treading water. St. Anne's Orphanage is the one who got us into the grayish van and brought us to some weird parking garage. Then we walked a short distance into like a YMCA building. Then we all got into the pool with staff members in the short end. Then at the end of class, they said that whoever treads water the longest will get a medal and everybody else will get like a little prize. So we treaded water. Now I didn't realize it, but I did tread water the longest. I thought I would lose. I figured there's no way that I could be number one. But guess what? I was. That's great because I won Child of the Month too. I didn't think I was good. I mean, there's 30 kids here. How could I beat 29 other kids at treading water or whatever? You know, this was a short class. I think there was only like 12 kids on this class. I'm not quite sure why. But there wasn't, no, 30. Anyway, so I did the best. This dirty blonde, 26-year-old, 30-year-old, young girl, lady, well, we're coming out of the pool and they're helping out his pool, said, "I did a great job. I came in number one." She pulls out a marker, pulls out a medal, writes down my initials. Well, I don't even remember her asking me my name either, but maybe she did ask me my name. Or she had my name already. Anyway, she wrote my initials, ZG, on the back. She told me not to let anybody steal it. They brought me back to the program. I went to my room. I stuck the medal in my Lego box. I looked at it a couple times at night, and that's about it. About maybe once a week, I go down my Lego box, take a look at it, feel really proud that I accomplished something, and then put it back in my Lego box and go back to sleep. My roommate doesn't try to steal it. Nobody does. Well, I go to my first foster home. I go to my second foster home. Then I meet this Patricia and Henry, my new foster home. Then, after some wacky business with an overdose and a couple other things, my mother says she's going to adopt me. And she does adopt me, but she gives me a little bit of drugs during the adoption to make me tired and passed out for it. Probably so they don't ask me any questions that I might answer. But I'm not quite sure why my mother drugged me right before we went to this thing. She said it was part of my adoption. Or why she drugged me right before I had to go to the adoption party. But anyways, I was adopted anyways. I'm with a family. I'm in a home. I got what I always wanted. Even though this mother seems crazy. Even though she's giving me extra medicines. That will all go away, right? At this point, I say, well, let's show my mother this medal. I'm playing with my Lego box and I've come across my medal. Oh, yes, let's show this to my new mother. So I grab my swimming medal. It has a ZG, my old last name, but now my name is ZN. I go to show my mother the accomplishment. I say, hey, Mom, look at this medal I won in the orphanage. I won the swim medal. I act all excited. My mother snatches it out of my hand, goes, no, you didn't. That's an African American's medal. You stole that medal. You wrote your name on the back of it. You're writing your name on stuff. Yes, you are. We're bringing you to the doctors. Yeah, you need more medicine. Yeah, Henry, this kid needs more medicine. Yeah, he's stealing the African American's medal and writing his old last name on it. He's trying to get back at me, Henry. Yes, he's trying to get back at me, Henry. Yeah, I don't care. No, he is. He's out to get me, Henry. He's writing his old name with a G on it to try to get back at me, and I know it is what my mother says to my father and is screaming at the doctors, and then gets me put on even more medication while stealing my accomplishment away. I literally did not get my medal back, crushed my self-esteem, did so much damage. I'm crying and crying. Please give my medal back. Crying. I'm even telling therapists and teachers how my mother stole my medal and I want it back. But no matter how much I cry, how much I beg, no matter how much I tell the truth, my mother is going to keep lying and keep on making up mental illnesses. She continues this rampage, and then the teachers start realizing there's something wrong, that something was done to me like an overdose. They start putting me in physical therapy, speech therapy. The teacher calls me in the hallway and asks me about this, why I can't move my body like I used to. You're writing and you're moving and your back and your head and your speech, everything seems different as of last week. And you've been like this for a couple days now, and you weren't like this before. We've known you for a little bit now, and you've never had this. I say, oh, I don't know. I just don't know. I don't know anything. Well, has anything changed at home? I don't know. I don't know. Is what I'm saying at 7 years old, as my nervous system is fried, as I'm having problems trying to figure out what's different in me. Something's different, but I don't know what. As soon as I woke up from the overdose, I knew something was different. Now, the overdose itself made it so I couldn't feel anything. I couldn't see out of my eyeballs. I couldn't stand up. I couldn't make up words. Couldn't talk. I was asking for help, screaming for help. My mother did call for help, but when they told her to bring me to the emergency room, she refused. She said, no, those medicines can't cause anything. Yes, we had several talks later about this as well. I got more and more information about those overdoses, the more and more I brought it up at the doctors. But all my mother would say is that she gave me medicine, and it was an allergy attack to the medicine she gave me. What none of the doctors believed, nobody believed that. So, you know what my mother did? She pulled me out of the doctors, she pulled me out of the schools, she pulled me out of the ballet that she was using to cover this up, and she moved me to El Paso, Texas. My father didn't want to go. I was only 7, and I said, yes, no, maybe, I didn't. Then my mother's convincing me to stick with yes. We moved to Texas. Do you think I continued my medical care? No. You think that the teachers there got follow-ups with what was going on with my nervous system? No. You think my mother told any doctors what was going on? No. You think my father's told any doctors what was going on? No. You think that anything was changed? No. And my mother had me on massive amounts of drugs before we moved. You can't stop taking those pills. So she put me on massive amounts of drugs and then cut them all off out of nowhere to move to Texas, saying that I need these drugs, I need these drugs, I need these pills. But guess what? When she moved to Texas, she tried that same bullshit with the Texas doctors. Didn't work as well. Then she moved me to New Mexico to some cabin where she knew any parent that would go to this building and take a look around could clearly see it's a cabin surrounded by rattlesnake holes, giant ant hills. Well, maybe it was gonna have a pool one day, but not when I was there. Maybe when they put in the 3 new buildings and the pool and the new staff and the teacher, maybe then it would be a decent program. But when I was there was one cabin that we lived in. There was one office space where only the staff were allowed to go, and there was one big like Christmas tree room where we were allowed to go only when our parents visited. So we only got to stay those 18 months in the cabin, and we got to sleep on the floor every night. On top of this, there was an African American that was choking out kids. There was food poisoning, so much more, and the teacher quit after 3 months because he said it was too much of a commute. So they had the staff members just kind of do extracurricular activities, like having us take rock hammers to rocks and stuff like that as our full education. No real classes. And then when they sent me back with my parents, and there was a lawsuit and all that, you know what they sent? Just a bunch of random printouts. I don't even know what the fuck those were. I did pretty well on those random printouts, even with my mother yelling at me, though. So you got all this craziness going. You got all this fucking nuts bullshit. And, of course, you can't, like, lie about it. You can't, well, Zach going to Texas is a fantasy. Well, New Mexico is a fantasy. No, maybe I sued New Mexico for Zach, but it's all a fantasy. Well, how about Maine? That's a fantasy. How about the pills being given to him at age 7 and him talking to the doctor? That's a fantasy. Until we get to the doctor, and then the doctor has it on paper. Until we get to the lawsuit and show I was in New Mexico. Until we show all this on paper, my father's going to go, it's a fantasy, 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 it's a fantasy. It's a fantasy, it's not true, he's a liar, it's a fantasy. I mean, it was their go-to when I was a 7-year-old. When I won a swimming medal, and I was just trying to show them my cool thing, they took it away from me and said, you're lying, it's a fantasy, you're stealing, this isn't your medal. Meanwhile, it is. I won it in the orphanage, nobody else. I mean, the people who know where that medal came from is me, a blonde staff member, the staff at St. Anne's, and all the other kids during that swim class. We all know where that medal came from. But does my mother? Yes, she knows too, because I just told her I won it in the orphanage. I just told my mother where it came from. Does my father know where it came from? He does too. I just told him I won it in the orphanage. Is there any evidence to the contrary? Is there anybody saying it's their medal? No. Did anybody else say they had a medal? No. Did the African American be in swim class? No. Was there anybody else asking about their medal? No. Was their son crying about their medal being taken from them? Yes. Was their son saying where they won it? Yes. Was their son saying what they were doing to them is wrong? Yes. Was there any reason whatsoever to believe that their son was lying about their swimming medal, putting his old last name on it, and stealing swimming medals? Was there any evidence to that? No. My mother created that all in her head and then just threw it out there and pushed it and pushed it and pushed it and pushed it until everybody just gave up and went along with their bullshit. Nobody ever came up asking for that medal. Nobody ever said it was their medal. Nobody ever bothered. Nobody ever won it. No, it was me. I won it. Nobody else had anything to do with it. I won that in an orphanage, and my own adopted mother belittled me, called me a liar, called me a thief, did all this, and this started at age 5 to 7, and it continues to this day. When I bring up stuff that my own father witnessed with his own 2 eyes, when I bring up stuff that his daughter, his son, me and his grandson, and his stepson all keep on telling him, that's not just me, we have all brought this stuff up before. He calls it a fantasy, he says I'm lying, I'm a thief. Oh, it's same old bullshit, huh? You steal my swimming medal, you call me a liar and a thief, you cripple me, you call me a liar and a thief. Now I'm asking you to clean up your mess. Oh, that's right. He's going to call me a liar and a thief. It's his go-to. It's a fantasy. You're a liar. You're a thief. It's a fantasy. You're a liar. You're a thief. It's his go-to to avoid responsibility. If he wants to steal his child's medal, he just takes it and says that he's a thief and a liar. Yeah, my father's that much of a thief with my mother that they steal little orphans' medals. And then they say, oh, he's a liar and a thief over it. That's his game. That's fucked up. He's still doing it today, David.
Yeah.
Still today, when I bring up very important stuff that he knows he saw. He knows he saw my mother act crazy. People bringing it up to him for years. He knows he's seen me sick. He knows he's seen me on my bones. He knows that bad shit has happened to me. He knows his wife was acting crazy. He knows his wife died under very weird circumstances, like taking her pills out of her son's pill box and drinking too much and coming back to the hospital with liver failure and still drinking, acting nuts, stealing pocketbooks out of like $2 grand, just all different types of crazy things. And yet, he sticks to harming his son by saying, it's a fantasy, you're a liar, it's a fantasy, it's a liar, you're a thief, whatever gets me off the hook. Whatever lets me steal a medal from an orphan will also let me get off with hurting that orphan, right?
Yeah.
First, we'll steal from this orphan, we'll use this orphan, we'll cover up my wife's crime, and then on top of it, let's use that old thing we hurt him with. He's a liar, it's a fantasy, he's a liar, a thief, it's a fantasy, he's just trying to hurt me, he's just trying to get back at me. That's all they have for lines. Since age 7, I've heard it over and over. Meanwhile, what's really happening? They're stealing an orphan's accomplishment. They're walking over there, snatching an orphan's swimming medal, putting it in their own jewelry box, and then going around calling their fucking son a liar and a thief as he cries, going, oh, my swimming medal, fuck, why did they take my swimming medal? Why? I worked hard for that. I was the only kid in that class that won it. Why is she doing this? Why is she lying about me? Why is she doing this? Meanwhile, I cry for weeks and she continues this behavior. I don't care who you are. Stealing a 7-year-old orphan's swimming medal is fucked up.
Yeah.
And after you cripple this person, you do harm for 25 years, and he's trying to work with you and be nice about it, then you go back to your old bullshit. It's a fantasy. It's a lie. It's a fantasy. I'm running away. I don't want to deal with it. Yeah, first you steal people's accomplishments away. Then you allow your wife to cripple them. Then you move him around, trafficking him around the country. Now that he's trying to forgive you, trying to work with you, you're going to fall right back into, here's a lie, here's a thief, it's a fantasy, here's a lie. Whatever fucking gets him off the hook, right?
Yeah.
Whatever. Anybody can do that bullshit. The problem is, I can't drive to Texas. I can't drive. He won't even give me the name of the doctors. He won't even do that shit.
No.
Plus, he trafficked me everywhere. That's not going to really work so well. So anyways, the best way to handle this is to have him ask follow-up questions, take responsibility for his actions. I give him forgiveness. We work together cleaning this fucking shit up. And then it's over with. It's done. But I keep on having to hear the bullshit excuse that they used when they stole my swimming medal. I don't want to hear that fucking excuse anymore. I heard that at age 7 when you wanted to take my accomplishments away. I remember that. You stole my fucking swimming medal out of my hand when I wanted to show you my accomplishment, and you called me a liar, a thief, told me it was a fantasy, told me I had attachment disorder. You said that the G on the back was me trying to get back at my mother. All this fucking shit. Meanwhile, it's just a medal I won in swim class for treading water that I wanted to show to you. But instead, they're gonna go with that same old bullshit. It's a fantasy, it's a lie, it's a blah, blah, blah. Why don't you fucking ask a follow-up question, do some research, and use your brain for once, instead of just being an asshole that steals little kids' medals?
Yeah.